Our guest this week is no stranger to the program. We want to welcome back Colorado Congressman Ed Perlmutter.
Thank
you,
Adam.
sir, for coming on back to your show.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you very much.
This week dominated by news of our Colorado Senator, Ken Salazar, being nominated by the President-elect to join his cabinet as Interior Secretary. The political dominoes, if you will, falling already. Dana in Lakewood wants to know, do you have any interest in that seat?
Well, let's just start with the state's loss of Ken as our senior senator is the nation's gain. He's going to be a great Interior Secretary, and I think what really did the trick for him to become the Secretary was he's so good at land use and water issues to begin with, but then the President added energy issues to the portfolio, so he's going to be part of that team. So then that did start a domino effect as to who replaces him as a senator. And yes, I'm interested in that position. I've met with the governor. We talked about it. I think I bring a lot to the table. I can hit the ground running. I've been working on financial issues, energy issues, veterans, and homeland security issues, which I could bring right away to the Senate. But on the other hand, the governor has a lot of good people to choose from. The mayor, who's bright, energetic, funny, a great reputation. John Salazar, who's hardworking. He was mentioned for a secretary position. Diana DeGette, Andrew Romanoff. It's an embarrassment of riches, is what one person said. I just think it's a lot of very well-qualified people to choose from.
Why do you want to do that, as opposed to staying where you are and still working on the
I
same
love representing the 7th Congressional District. I've lived in it my whole life, but I think I can bring the same energy, passion, and experience in representing the state as a whole that I do for the 7th Congressional District. And I just think that you can, the Senate has been holding up a lot of things. It's a different process over there where the individual senator has much more power to slow things down. And we don't have time now. It's about action. There are so many needs in this economy and in this world that to continue to just hold things back, I think, is not doing anybody good service.
You talk about so many of those things. The national story this week, the President deciding over Congress's objections to allocate $17.4 billion in short-term loans to the big three automakers in Detroit. Cheryl Doyle writes in saying, maybe as a college student, economics major, she says, I must have missed something because failure is a part of the free enterprise system, isn't it? Simple supply and demand rules will fail to ultimately restore this auto industry. They can turn out any kind of car, but if the demand for the car is not there because of tight credit markets, loss of jobs, lack of consumer confidence, the automakers end up with cars that sit on lots and are back asking for more money. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I think in a normal economy, she is absolutely right. We're not in a normal economy. And so in connection with this auto restructuring, auto assistance, I asked 3 questions. Is the auto industry, the domestic auto industry, essential to America? And my answer was yes, both for jobs, because we're seeing layoffs in all sorts of other sectors. We can't afford another couple million layoffs right now. And 2, we need a manufacturing base for national security purposes. But that's not the last question. If the United States was to be the lender of last resort, because no other banks are loaning money, then can you secure the United States? And you can, by law and under certain principles, make the lender of last resort the senior and superior prior lien. And the third piece, though, and this is where she's coming from, is can you restructure these things? Because they haven't operated in a way that's been profitable. And yes, you bring bankruptcy-like powers to whatever, and you trim these things down, collective bargaining, pensions, dealerships, bondholders, suppliers. You can make these companies profitable. Her point is well taken, but we can't afford the job losses in this economy. It's too fragile.
You talk about the job losses. Dick Spain writes in from Centennial, if bankruptcy, he writes, works for the airlines, why not the automakers?
I agree with him. And what we tried to do, and really what the President has created by this loan that is being presented to the automakers is a bankruptcy, but not within a Chapter 11. So years ago we had what was called the Railroad Reorganization Act. When Penn Central and a number of the Northeast railroads were in trouble, Congress in effect created new bankruptcy laws that really restructure the railroad industry. The same thing was going to happen, is going to happen here in the domestic auto industry.
Is the governor, John Christie just wrote this in late this morning from Parker, with Is the government going to have some sort of oversight on how this money is being spent?
Yes. In fact, I was just looking at what they call the term sheet basically it's a 100-day loan, and the key piece is the companies come up with a restructuring plan, a reorganization plan as to how they can be profitable going forward. And everybody's going to take a hit: the bondholders, the bankers, the suppliers, the dealers, the unions, the pensioners, all up and down the line, management and shareholders. There will be, in effect, the loan officer watching all of this. There are restrictions on executive pay, on golden parachutes, on they have to sell their jets. You know, there are all sorts of limitations on these guys. Warrants are presented to the United States, and as I said, the loan of the United States will be the senior loan against the car companies.
Your colleague, this issue has really split a lot of folks in Washington, and not just along party lines, but your soon-to-be colleague, Democratic Representative Jared Polis, from 2nd Congressional District, wanted to keep this a private matter, wanted the private banks to be able to step up. We received a lot of feedback from folks. I'm going to read you a question from Aaron Collins, who wrote in saying, why don't you give vouchers to the public? So the public uses the vouchers to buy the cars rather than giving directly to the car companies. That's a good question and a good approach. In fact, we had from one economist, the United States itself, the country buys, and I'm talking about the federal government and state governments buy all sorts of vehicles each and every year, and really push the government to be buying it so you actually get something for this money. Yeah. And so voucher is one approach, and I think one of the other approaches was a voucher for a fuel efficient kind of a car. So you move these guys into the 21st century where they've been balking in the past. And I think that's what has everybody really upset, is that you've had companies who've resisted fuel efficiency. They've done it politically. They've done it in a whole variety of ways. Now, why are we helping them? The reason we're helping them in the short run is because we believe they can restructure themselves, and it's going to be very painful, and we're preserving jobs. So the help is not in any way, and correct me if I'm wrong, so the help is not designed to say you've done a good job, we're going to reward you. The help is
to just get them to a place where they restructure themselves and make themselves streamlined and ready to go for the next 60, 70 years. And it's a 100-day bridge loan that can be called at any time if they're not doing anything.
Let's take a step back. Bob McGrath from Arvada writes in, there are all sorts of concerns about the economy in general. And Bob's currently unemployed, background in marketing. So with today's economy, there's no demand for anyone in marketing. Many employers are hunkering down rather than hiring. There's been a lot of talk about the stimulus packages you're going to see in January, and the governor has been on this program lobbying for more funding for infrastructure. Mayors have asked for it as well. He wants to know, will you commit to pushing for jobs and job training for the significant number of people who are not going to benefit from those infrastructure-based jobs programs that's going to target construction and trades, of which that's not his background?
The stimulus package, or I want to call it the investment package that's being proposed, has several parts to it. One is to rebuild our infrastructure, transportation, transit, and the energy grid. There are all sorts of jobs in that for many, many people. Second piece is innovation and energy. So to really come up with new ways to power this country and take us out of this economic malaise we're in right now. There will be plenty of marketing jobs in that sector for him. The third piece is that for people who are out of work, there will be unemployment insurance, there will be Medicaid assistance, and there will be job training components to that section. The fourth section is just direct assistance to the states, because Colorado, depending upon which economists, either the governors or the legislatures, there's some serious deficits here.
I'm glad you brought that up, because Bruce Lightcoff writes in from Denver saying, with 4 new members of the congressional delegation taking office in January, he's assuming the governor is going to announce a replacement for Senator Salazar. How is Colorado going to be able to get its fair share of this federal stimulus spending?
By a lot of hard work, by the personal contacts that each and every one of us has, and we're in a good space because John Salazar was recently appointed to the Appropriations Committee. So I think very focused, very energetic people, we'll get our fair share.